The hallway of 73 Dove Street had an olive-green carpet which was curling at the edges and looked as if it hadn't been cleaned for a very long time. There was no light shade, and the bare bulb swayed slightly with the smoky breeze blowing through the front door. "Close the door if you don't mind. Come into the parlour. That's where I like to discuss my business," the woman said, and opened a door that was painted in army green. The parlour was a dusty room with heavy red furniture and thick moth-eaten curtains. There was a strong smell of camphor, but judging by the state of the curtains, it was too late for such measures. Edie wrinkled her nose. The red velvet sofa had lost one of its little feet and was lopsided. Next to the sofa was a small table with a black Chinese vase that had clearly been glued back together. The top of the vase was chipped, and a large crack ran down the centre of it, as if somebody had dropped it at some point. On the wall facing Edie as she entered the room was a picture of the Queen in her ermine robes, and on the opposite wall a watery landscape in blues and greys, all tumbling seas and cloudy skies. There were photographs in wooden frames along the top of the mantelpiece, but their faces were all turned downwards. Edie wondered if somebody had died. Edie had never rented a room on her own, and her courage, with which she had started the day so well, had long since run out, leaving her in a nervous state. Everything had happened so quickly that she hadn't had time to think. Standing to attention, she tried to steady herself. She just needed a few days to work out what to do next. Her plan had been quite clear in her mind when she'd nervously scribbled down the address of a house with rooms to let from a newsagent's window earlier that morning. She would lie low for a while, maybe a week, and then she would buy a train ticket and leave London for good. The buying of the train ticket seemed like such a simple thing, but the problem was that the destination kept changing in Edie's mind as possibilities came and went. She'd never been further than Margate. In fact, she'd barely set foot outside Deptford in her entire life. Her world had been small, and she had liked it that way. Familiar houses, people she'd known her whole life. It had been all she needed until things had gone so terribly wrong. Apart from the odd shopping trip or day out, Edie had never strayed very far, and she had no idea how you might go about choosing a place to live far away from everything you'd ever known. Even 73 Dove Street, lodged firmly as it was in the shabby hinterland between Notting Hill and Ladbroke Grove, seemed quite far to travel in Edie's mind. There were just too many choices, presenting themselves as sunny seaside resorts or dark industrial cities filled with strangers, playing like images on a movie screen, and all she had to do was choose. But the choosing confused her. One choice presented all the worries of refusing the other choices, and every time Edie reached the same conclusion. She'd think about it tomorrow. "I'm Mrs. Collier, but my tenants usually call me Phyllis. I'll answer to either." The sound of the woman's voice cut through Edie's worrying, and she snapped to attention. In front of her, Phyllis stood with her arms folded, droning on and on about rules. Apparently, it was very important that Edie understood the kind of respectable house she was running, as the woman carried on explaining without drawing breath. Meanwhile, Edie's hands continued their trembling no matter what she did. Her little cardboard suitcase felt heavy in her arms, and there was a faint whiff of burning in the air from the mattress that was still ablaze in the street. The wallpaper in the parlour was peeling due to the damp, and Edie couldn't help wondering, if this was the parlour, then what on earth would her room be like? "Come along then, I'll show you up."